The world's political and business leaders have converged on the Swiss resort town of Davos to discuss global challenges. WEF says this year's event, the 55th Annual Forum, which runs from Monday to Thursday, will convene close to 3,000 leaders from over 130 countries, with the gathering demonstrating the critical need for dialogue in an increasingly uncertain era. It notes that 350 government leaders, including 60 heads of state and government, will gather in Davos clusters to address pressing challenges and shape emerging opportunities. For more on this, Matsi Modise from World Climate Foundation joins us from Davos, Switzerland, to share perspective. Good afternoon from here. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Greetings.
All right.
In Davos.
Fantastic. How do you believe the goals and discussions at the World Economic Forum align with urgent needs for climate finance?
So climate change is a big agenda here at the World Economic Forum. It's a big agenda on the African continent. And climate change has a big impact in developing and emerging markets that do reside in Africa. You know, in South Africa alone, we had great floods, big floods, and everybody's wondering why and what are the solutions. So it is linked to climate change. And for us to be able to come with solutions, it's important that we are able to finance those climate solutions. So climate finance is very key, and it's something that cannot be done alone. It's a collaborative effort. During COP29 last year in Baku, one of the big outcomes is how do we finance poorer countries? And in essence, that was a big agenda. And how do the richer countries put money and allocate money towards that? So there are a lot of commitments that have been made towards allocating finance to emerging and developing markets that are hardest hit by climate change. But how do we ensure that we catalyze that finance into Africa, into localized communities? Because as many would say, this is a big talk shop. But how do we have agents of change that are able to be here in Davos and ensure that we are the champions that are going to catalyze climate finance in Africa for solutions? Yeah.
I know you talked about climate financing being very key, you know, not just for the world at large, of course, for the African continent, but then beyond that, what talking points are you looking at the World Economic Forum regarding climate financing?
So it's important that if we are wanting to have more climate finance flowing into the African continent, what do we have in place to be able to ensure that that finance does land well and it does go to being able to have climate mitigation and climate adaptation solutions? So first thing that comes to mind is the policy framework, right? Do we have the right framework in our various countries that would enable this finance to be able to come, that would enable African solutions for African climate problems to be able to be resolved? And good thing about South Africa, last year we did pass our climate change bill. So that is the first good start. How do we have an enabling environment, an enabling policy environment to be able to catalyze this finance? And then the second thing, I would say the solutions, right? Because we don't want to be having, Chinese imported solar solutions. How do we as an African continent utilize our own abilities and capabilities to be able to come up with our own African solutions for our climate problems? There's a technology component that comes to that, climate technology. And all of that needs financing, right? So I think it's a nice ecosystem of we've got a climate problem as a continent, we've got a climate problem as a globe, but how do we now make sure that Africa does not miss that opportunity to have its own solutions for its own problems? So it's good that we have a policy framework. It's good that we catalyze technological solutions for that. And also it's good that we collaborate. So I do some work with the Danes. The Danes are very progressive when it comes to climate solutions, renewable energy as a source of energy resources in their country. So how do we work with other countries that have been able to progress and would be able to collaborate with us? But knowing that we also have our own solutions, we're not looking at them for solutions. Africa also plays a critical role around critical minerals, right? It can get very political, that topic, but the reality is as we do the energy transition, as we go into renewables, as we're going into sustainable practices, critical minerals in Africa are going to be very important. So Africa plays a very, very key role around climate change, not as a continent that's suffering, but a continent that should be able to come up with its own solutions. And how do our leaders focus on that? Because everybody would say, well, we have poverty, we have illiteracy, we have a lot of problems as Africa, we have to industrialize. The climate agenda, it's far down the ladder, but unfortunately, the climate agenda has to be part of the solution.
I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the news. Matsi Modise, many thanks indeed for your perspective.